the dog Laika on board Sputnik 2 in 1957. Sadly, she died when the spacecraft's oxygen supply ran out. The first manned space flight was made in April 1961 by the Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin in Vostok 1. The heart of a star reaches 16 million degrees centigrade. A grain of sand this hot would kill someone 150 kilometers away. Stars twinkle because we see them through the wafting of the atmosphere. The sun weighs 2,000 trillion tons, about 300,000 times as much as the Earth, even though it is almost entirely made of hydrogen and helium, the lightest gases in the universe. The sun gets hot because it is so big that the pressure in its core is so tremendous, enough to force the nuclei of hydrogen atoms to fuse to make helium atoms. This nuclear reaction is like a gigantic atom bomb, and it releases huge amounts of heat. The nuclear fusion reactions in the sun's core send out billions of light photons every minute, but they take 10 million years to reach its surface. The Hiroshima bombs released 84 trillion joules of energy. A supernova releases 125 million trillion times as such. The most distant galaxies, quasars, have red shifts so big that they must be moving away from us at speeds approaching the speed of light. When light waves from distant galaxies are stretched out this way, they look redder. This is called red shift. The moon's gravity is 17% of the Earth's, so astronauts in spacesuits can jump 4 meters high on the moon. The moon is the only other world that humans have set foot on. Because the moon has no atmosphere or wind, the footprints planted in its dusty surface in 1969 by the Apollo astronauts are still there today, perfectly preserved. On the moon's surface are large dark patches called seas, because this is what people once believed they were. They are, in fact, lava flows from ancient volcanoes. Quasars are the most distant known objects in the universe. Even the nearest is billions of light years away. The brightest quasar is 3C 273, 2 billion light years away. The brightest stars in the night sky are not actually stars, but the planets Jupiter, Venus, Mars, and Mercury. Jupiter's moon Europa may have oceans of water beneath its dry surface, and it is a major target in the search for life in the solar system. There may be 20 trillion galaxies in the universe. Galaxies are often found in a group or clusters. One cluster may have 30 or so galaxies in it. In the 1970s, the U.S. Vikings 1 and 2 and the Soviet Mars 3 and 5 probes all reached the surface of Mars. The solar system has 9 planets, including Pluto, but Pluto may be an escaped moon or an asteroid, not a planet. The Milky Way belongs to a cluster of 30 galaxies called the Local Group, which is 7 million light years across. The Virgo cluster is 50 million light years away and is made up of more than 1,000 galaxies. For a satellite or a spacecraft to stay in orbit 200 kilometers above the Earth, spacecraft reaches 140% of the orbital velocity, for example 11.2 kilometers a second, it is going fast enough to break free of the Earth's gravity. This is called escape velocity. Saturn's rings are sets of thin rings of ice, dust, and tiny rocks which orbit the planet around its equator. A tablespoon of neutron star would weigh about 10 billion tons. The Earth actually takes 365.24219 days to orbit the Sun, which is called one solar year. To compensate for the missing 0.242 days, the Western calendar adds an extra day in February every fourth or leap year, but misses out 3 leap years every 4 centuries. X-rays cannot reach the Earth's atmosphere, so astronomers can only detect them using space telescopes such as Rosat. The Sun has sunspots, the dark spots on the Sun's photosphere or surface. 2,000 degrees Celsius